Workers Federation and Secretary of the ITF Canada Coordinating Committee. First of all, I just want, questions are coming at the end, so apologize in advance for having a few stacked up here. So I've got one kick at the cat, so I'm going to just cover a couple of different things, and then I'm going to pass it over to one of my colleagues. As Donald Russell knows, the ITF Canada has a coordinating committee meeting prior to every Cmac, and that comprises of all of Canada's marine trade unions. We've been meeting together for, I guess, 12 or 13 years now in an organized way, and trying to coalesce our issues and participate in a mature and thoughtful manner within the Cmac process. And over time, cooperation ebbs and flows depending sometimes on the issues and sometimes on whether maritime labor as a stakeholder group is being heard or not. Putting all of the questions at the end like this it seems to us, after we've been hearing from speaker after speaker after speaker saying the same sorts of things, we value your input, we want to hear from you, whether it's good or bad or all of this and that. By putting it all at the end, you put the whole process into a situation where it's not exactly as viable as it ought to be. We've been sitting around for about 2 hours now, or an hour and a half, you know, hearing some presentations that we've heard over and over again, minor updates, and we hear them over and over again. So we're wondering, to a certain extent, is this opening plenary session meeting our needs? And that's one of the things I heard today too, is meeting your needs. And I don't think this process is meeting our needs. Shutting down the closing plenary is also an issue, because at the closing plenary, that was a minuted meeting, and then there was a record. There was a record that would exist of all of our valued input during the whole Cmac week. So those are my opening remarks in terms of process here with opening and closing plenaries. One of the issues that was brought to me yesterday was from our colleagues in the dock workers unions. They're very, very disappointed in the notice that was given for this meeting, for the Cmac week this time. The short notice to begin with, it meant that people had to rush to book their flights and trips and hotels and everything else. Lots of hotels now, I understand, are sold out. People have been trying to make accommodations very late in the day, and we received an agenda. On April 8th, there was an agenda sent out, and marine security, which, as you know, Marie-Christie, is very important to the, particularly the dock workers unions and our members, affiliates of the ITF. That was moved that was changed on from March 8th, it was going to be today, which would be an appropriate day to have it, to now it's been moved to Thursday. A lot of these people have booked their flights and are going home. And a lot of the people that intend to attend that session come from very small unions with very limited resources, and I think it's an obligation for Transport Canada to meet their needs. So we're extremely disappointed that the Maritime Security meeting has been moved to the Thursday, when a lot of those participants will be gone. And in fact, even I suggest a lot of the players will be gone too. This whole thing will be winding down. I look at the participation in the room today, and it's probably about half of what it was last time. You couldn't get a seat in this room last time, and there's plenty of space in this room today. So I think something's going wrong. We shut down CMAC for a year. I understand there was an election and all that. It's time to get this thing going again. It's time to actually consult with people in a way that is reasonable, that they felt that they have been consulted. Another thing I want to touch on is the CETA and the CTA review that we've heard about from Ms. Joyce Henry today. We put it to you guys last year on CETA that the maritime provisions contained in that agreement was the thin edge of the wedge to open up cabotage in this country. And we were assured by the previous government and by all of you folks that we were on LSD or something, that it was limited that it was going to be limited to one container run between Halifax and Montreal, a little bit of dredging, and international ferry routes. But now we see with the Emerson report that they want to, the Emerson report suggests that cabotage be shut down in this country, just wiped out over a 7-year period. We have to actually question the integrity of Transport Canada, and particularly the Marine Policy Department, because it's the Marine Policy Department that actually provided all of the data and information and facilitation that went into the CETA agreement. That's where that stuff comes from. And now we're going to be, this Marine Policy Department is going to be dealing with the CTA. Now during the last election, particularly SIU of Canada, one of our affiliates, dogged the Prime Minister in the election. Everywhere the Prime Minister's bus went, seafarers were there to meet him. And if all of the old seafarers who've been in this room for as long as I have, and this marine industry for as long as I have, will remember that a former Prime Minister from before was dogged by shipping issues and flags of convenience and offshore tax havens and all of those sorts of things. And that's kind of where we see this whole thing going. It's like the government is maturing to the point where you guys are going to come hell or high water, as Prime Minister Paul Martin was fond of saying, come hell or high water, we're going to make this happen. It seems like you guys are going to make this happen. And if you're going to waste our time and resources and money to come to these places to say that we were consulted, well, you know what? That's not going to fly. It's just not going to fly. I don't know if you caught a story in the Toronto Sun or the Toronto Star just the other day, and it talked about regulatory capture as being a factor in the Lake Mégantic railroad disaster. We know that Transport Canada is in trouble all over the place in rail, all over the place, suppressing reports and information from the public, not really adhering to the principles of railroad safety, safety management systems. Transportation Safety Board is all over criticizing safety management systems now, where industries will say, some industry players will say that safety management systems are just another line in ensuring the integrity and safety and security, but it's not, because you guys aren't regulating. You're not regulating, it's causing accidents and causing injuries. Causing airplane accidents, we've seen one a couple of weeks ago, you know what I'm talking about. Lake Mégantic, we've seen tugboats sinking on the west coast of the island. And then we talk about world-class tanker safety. You know what? You guys are the ones who are actually dreaming in Technicolor, because you actually have a job to do and you're not doing it. So if we're going to invite into our country flags of convenience to operate in cabotage, when we have shortages of work for Canadians as it is right now, and having read the mandate letters from the Prime Minister to all of his new ministers, he's pretty clear on all of this stuff. And we're going to actually hold you guys to account on the ministerial letters from the Prime Minister on this stuff. I'm going to pass over a few minutes of my time to a young worker who's also an ITF inspector now. My colleague Vincent Giannopoulos is 26 years old. He's been an ITF inspector for about 3 years, and he's been a seafarer before that. He's a young worker, and he has some opinions about the direction that you folks are taking us. Vincent.
Thanks, Pete. So like you said, I come to you as a young worker, a concerned young worker, excited about the potential future of our industry, with very cautious optimism towards our new government. Now, young voters, I should say, played a major role in our new government's successful election campaign. And, we lobbied all over for this government, and we were promised change from the old stock style of government. Commander Gordon Roy spoke about the future generation of seafarers, and it's just, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Now, the SIU represents the majority of unlicensed Canadian seafarers, somewhere around 90%. Now, Ms. Henry mentioned the economic benefit to Canada ratifying CETA we also spoke today about security concerns and environmental concerns. So for those who don't know, CETA would allow European beneficially owned vessels to transport cargo between Canadian ports. So not ships flagged in Europe, ships owned in Europe that would be flagged with flags of convenience. These vessels will be beneficially owned by corporations, and this will allow them to exploit foreign labor for about $2 an hour or less, and I see it every day. This is my daily job. So with that statement, my statement would be that, you know, when we talk about these security concerns, these environmental concerns, these economic concerns, the SIU stand on this, and I think all of the ITF affiliates stand on this, is that the best way to tackle those concerns is by employing seafarers that have a stake in all of those things. Seafarers that live here, that need that environment. Seafarers that really do care about what we've got here. Now, my question is, because you mentioned the economic benefit to ratifying the Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, can you please elaborate as to how throwing aside Canadian seafarers would provide an economic benefit to us?